Welcome to the Fleet Safety Geeks podcast, where we discuss the latest industry trends, best practices, and strategies for keeping your fleet and its drivers safe on the road. Whether you're a fleet manager, safety professional, or a driver yourself, our goal is to provide valuable insights and actionable tips to help you prevent accidents, protect lives, and promote a culture of safety within your organization. From vehicle maintenance and driver training to regulations and technology, we cover it all. Tune in every week as we explore the challenges and opportunities of fleet safety in today's fast-paced, ever-changing world. All right, welcome back to another episode of Fleet Safety Geeks. We have two very special guests with us, Jacy Good and Steve Johnson. This is our podcast that we're doing for Distracted Driving Month, and this is just the one that makes the most sense because Jacy Good has been a victim of distracted driving. Jacy, Steve, nice to meet you and nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Welcome, guys. Glad to have you on our podcast.
Great.
And I'm going to read a quick bio here. Jacy Good is a nationally known and awarded advocate and public speaker for phone-free roads. In May of 2008, Jacy and her parents were involved in a terrible crash on the drive home from her college graduation ceremony. The devastating wreck was caused by a driver distracted by a cell phone conversation. Good now travels the country with her husband, Steve Johnson, as they give their Hang Up and Drive presentation across varied audiences and industries. Miss Good has been a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, at Maria Shriver's Women's Conference, and the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon at his call to end the global epidemic of distracted driving. She has also been featured as a hero among us in People magazine and on CNN's The Human Factor, among many dozens of other print and television profiles. A 2016 AT&T PSA starring Jacy went viral with over 350 million views across social media. Together, they have spoken at over 1,900 events in 44 states, Washington, D.C., Canada, and Europe since 2011. And personally, I would say that you also spoke at NAFA, and Phil and I saw you there, and your presentation is absolutely amazing, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Boy, that was that makes us sound pretty, or at least makes her sound great. Me, great by association, maybe.
I'll tell you what, it is pretty great. So, yeah. So what we were thinking about doing is really letting you tell your story. We can chat a little bit if you want. If you want to just jump right into what you're doing. The podcast, we tend to lose audiences if we go too long. But I really want to get your message out there. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can do like an abbreviated version of just telling the story part of our presentation, cut all that sciencey kind of stuff and just kind of give you the good stuff.
Oh, we like science
stuff. And we did prepare some slides for you guys. If we can do the visuals that we would normally be showing in the presentation, that'd be great too.
That's great. Well, as far as sciencey stuff goes, we are geeks, so we really
that's right. I said that and I said, wait a minute, this is the audience that does like the science.
Exactly. Our audience typically wears pocket protectors, so
All right. Well, did you want to jump right into your presentation that you have prepared?
Yeah.
So to tell my own story, it's got to start with the story of my parents, Jay and Jean, both born in farm country, Pennsylvania in 1950. Didn't get married until, they met in 1970. Took them 7 years, got married, bought property, built a house, had my brother and I. Gave us a really incredible childhood out here in farm country, Pennsylvania, as we're trying to figure out where we fit in the world. And I guess all I can say is that hippie parents might have rubbed off on me a little bit here. At some point in high school, I decided that I wanted to go to college. But mom's a teacher, dad's a mechanic. I sort of felt like I needed to pay for a college. I needed to get scholarships. Got myself voted most school-spirited in my senior class.
I'm told that this was tie-dye day. I didn't know her yet. I take no blame for this. I have no knowledge of this.
I got involved in everything I could join. It was the foreign languages club. It was environmental club, softball, volleyball, cross country. It was everything I could do to try and build the life that I dreamt of, which worked. I got into my first choice college and I got scholarships and moved away to college to this kind of scary new world, but quickly made a new friend with this handsome young man.
This part is always scary. I hope it's me. I really hope it's me.
Named Steve.
Oh, thank goodness. There I was, man. Look at that facial hair. That's 2005 or so. I love
Pretty
it.
rad. I mean,
I think that this is the point at the NAFA presentation where the audience is supposed to go, "Aw."
We had a great one the other day. We do high school speeches too, kind of different versions of our presentation for schools. And every once in a while we do maybe an all girls school. And boy, do they give us the greatest awes at those schools.
So Steve is my first friend, but quickly made it obvious he didn't want to just be my friend.
This is the first really pretty girl to ever give me the time of day. So I feel like I had to jump on this.
yeah, you gotta jump on that, Steve.
I thought I was like an independent woman, and I'm proud to say I held out 3 weeks before Steve kissed me, and I was done for.
To be fair, it might have been 3 weeks and a couple days.
In any case,
Steve, right?
Well, okay. I guess our geek friends can know that she's the first girl I ever kissed. So I wanted to get that kiss over with. I was like, Steve, you were not super confident in high school, but I think you got to change your ways. And so I found this girl. I said, I got to kiss her. And I did. I didn't know I was going to marry that first kiss, but I feel like I also chose a pretty good one for my first kiss in the end.
Yeah.
Steve and I, so Steve and I ended up being together all 4 years of college. So now it's our senior year, and we're sort of trying to figure out, how is this going to work out in the real world? And even though Steve was this intimidating kid from upstate New York, I told him I would never move to New York. But then I needed a job, and so he got a job back home in New York. I got hired to work for Habitat for Humanity, close to where he was going to be. So it was like, we'll get married and buy a house, have those kids we had spent the last 4 years talking about was sort of all that was on my mind as we finished college. So this picture is from the senior ball dance where we had taken our finals. We are done with school. It felt really incredible to be at that point in life. It's 3 days before our graduation. And that was kind of the day that I had been working for my whole life. And my family was all there that morning. Then it's Steve's parents and my parents having lunch and sort of planning life moving forward together. So my parents and I packed up our car, which was this almost 20-year-old station wagon back then, which it was not the coolest car, but it was the kind of car that my dad knew how to fix himself as a mechanic. So that was the family car, and it fit everything I owned. So everything I owned went in the back of that car. We left college at 2 o'clock. It's a 90-minute drive back home in Pennsylvania. It's the last time we'll ever make that trip. We got maybe halfway home that Sunday afternoon. We stopped at a gas station, which is not exciting. We always stop there. We'll be home in 45 minutes or so, but it's a memory that I have to share because making that stop is the very last thing that I can remember for almost 2 months. And
I got the first call from the hospital that night. I had been calling her and texting her. Excuse me. Just trying to check in. I had gone back home to New York, and she was a Pennsylvania girl, so I was just like, "Hey, I wanted to let her know I was home, safe." And she wasn't responding. I wasn't really worried about it though, just because it was graduation day. I assumed she was unpacking or celebrating or just whatever it may be. And but I got that call because she had all these missed calls and texts from me. They must have assumed that I was somebody important. And they called me from her phone, which I guess is typical. We've heard these stories from other people in our years of speaking. Unfortunately, people share their stories with us. They call you from a phone that they know you're going to pick up from because people don't always pick up, of course, if they don't know the number. and it just wasn't her voice. You know, it was just so confusing, assuming it was her. And my brain just started playing this game. It's like it tries to escape and figure out something rational. And so I asked this woman, like, oh, did Jacy drop her phone on campus? This woman picked it up. She calls because I'm calling. But eventually she said that she was a chaplain and that there had been an accident. And she couldn't really give me details. I'm sure that's a legal thing as much as anything. And in the end, all I knew was she would tell me that, you know, as she knew, Jacy was alive in her hospital. She didn't know if Jacy's parents were at their hospital or not. And I was kind of left in limbo at the end of that conversation, just not knowing what was going on. And I just spent this next couple hours crying with my family, trying to calm me down. And eventually Jacy's brother Jared called me, and he said that Jacy was alive and that she had this laundry list of injuries, you know, broken feet, broken leg, shattered pelvis, broken wrist, broken collarbone, liver damage, lung damage, the carotid arteries are damaged, and she had this traumatic brain injury. And of course that sounded horrible, but he also said that she was in surgery. And again, my brain in protection mode was like, oh, she'll be okay. She's in a hospital. She's with doctors. She's in surgery. You know, it's like people get better after that. That's the way it goes. And I was feeling pretty good there for a minute. But then Jared said that neither of their parents had survived the crash. And, you know, it's just kind of one of the worst moments of my life. This kind of roller coaster of feeling, okay, she's going to be all right, and then kind of coming crashing back down there. You know, it's just, I had grown close to them. 3.5 years of dating. It starts off awkward, and you get a little more familiar, and then you get really, you know, hugs and kisses level, and it's just like this hard stop. It's really hard to process, especially at 22 years old when nothing like this had ever happened to me before. At the end of the conversation with Jared, though, I just knew I had to like get to Pennsylvania and get to the hospital, and that's what my parents and I did. And when we got there, Jacy was still in surgery. In the end, she was in surgery for 8.5 hours that night. But eventually, the brain surgeon allowed us to come and see her when she was out of surgery and alive. So this is one of the first photos. I'll change the slide to this one. We don't know exactly when this photo was. We think it's day 4, maybe day 5, something like that. This is kind of before smartphones, and we just don't have a date. It was taken with a real camera, I think. We just think it's not so early because Jared is smiling, and there weren't any smiles until at least some good news had happened, like Jacy is stabilizing, she's getting a little better, things like that, before that was even possible. And also, on night 1, her head, I'm looking at this photo on my screen right now. I mean, her head was like twice that size. The swelling, you just could not believe that like a person could be alive looking the way that she did. It was just outrageously scary. She just kept getting better. Yeah, at the end of the first night, the doctors only gave her a 10% chance of living through that first night. Throughout this entire process, she didn't mention the date of the crash. It was May 18th of 2008, so it's like 17 years ago. It was coming up on 18 years ago, right? And she's just, throughout these 18 years, she just defies the odds. And we feel so blessed. There's things she still has lost, but physically. But
there's still so much good.
Yeah, there's so much good. And we've always focused on the good. And it's hard to say that looking at this slide, but like, from where we were to where we are, it's just hard for us to really dwell on the bad stuff. A couple weeks later, she started to wake up. They had kept her in a coma for a while for her own safety more than anything. It was clear at this point that Jacy could not move the left side of her body, and that is still the case. She has very limited movement, but left
wrist fingers.
Get it higher. Get it in that camera zone.
Wrist, finger, like this is what my hand does at every moment. I cannot move it from that position, and my foot is kind of the same, ankle and toes, that I just got really nothing. So
yeah, but she was alive, and slowly, she was getting better. About a month after the crash, she started talking. She's not making much sense, but just the idea that she could talk. And then every once in a while she'd make more sense. And then it just built. All these little things had to build. She didn't know who I was, but then she'd get it right for a day. Or I'd come in the next day and she would forget who I was. But then she'd get it for 2 days. And these things just had to build up as her brain physically was healing, I think. And she was getting all the therapies that she needed to have. Eventually, 2 months after the crash, they decided she was healthy enough and stable enough that they could move her to a rehab hospital. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jacy, because honestly, she has no memories for the sections I've been covering here these first 2 months, but she's back now.
Thank goodness I have no memories of those months, because the stories are all really scary. But I can say that I remember physical therapy, because this is a picture of physical therapy with all those broken bones. It was sort of like my body couldn't really do much of anything at that point, but therapists were able to focus on my brain. At that point, it was like, I'm a college graduate trying to put words together into a sentence that even makes sense, or like brushing my teeth, putting my socks on. It was sort of focusing on those like activities of daily living. Can I live an independent life again? And my brain was making good progress, thankfully, with the help of some rods and nuts and bolts and I don't know what else. There's a lot of scars. My body healed enough that I could stand, and that to me was night and day. I was in a whole new world that now maybe I could learn to walk again. Maybe I could get back something close to the life that I had dreamt of living, even with all those things that I had lost along the way. So at least finally, I don't need to live in the hospital anymore to do my therapies. I can move to outpatient therapy, which meant I could move back home, which meant moving to my parents' house. And honestly, at that point, because of that brain injury, I had been told dozens of times what had happened, but just could not process. Now I'm back in my parents' house, and it was kind of all very real that mom and dad were gone. And so coping with that, trying to figure out how to move forward from there and understand what had done this, what had caused all of this pain. Honestly, Googling my own name to find like the news stories from my graduation day. Now they're 4-month-old stories, but it could at least tell me what happened. And so I learned, we left that gas station where I remember stopping. This intersection is maybe 5 minutes farther down the road. So my dad is driving and we're going south. We've got a green light. My dad never did anything wrong, but going north here was a semi-truck. It was an 18-wheeler, so he's got a green light too. We were gonna pass each other there, but on that intersecting road coming to a red light was a young man just talking on his phone. Actually put his phone on speakerphone, so it was like both of his hands were on the steering wheel and he was looking out his windshield. So like he saw his red light and he stopped at his red light. He's looking out that windshield, but like his brain was paying more attention to the phone call than that road. He treated it like a stop sign. He turned left through his red light, and that truck driver swerved, still hitting the front of that young man's car, but then that trucker lost control. It's my family's car, that old station wagon. He ended up hitting head on. In this picture, the young man is in that blue minivan. So a whole lot of things had to come together to get me out of that old white family station wagon back there. I later somehow pieced together, I learned that a paramedic lived just down the road, rushed to the scene, kept me alive. The roof was crushed on my head when he got to me. I was not breathing. He got me breathing again, kept me alive that afternoon. I also learned my mom had been in the back passenger seat, had not put her seatbelt back on when we left that gas station. She ended up in the front seat, and so by the time that paramedic got to her, she didn't even have a pulse. And it'll haunt me for the rest of my life that I might still have my mom if she had put her seatbelt on. What else?
Yeah, if we're fast forwarding a little bit, kept her alive. There was this ambulance. Literally, the next intersection, you can see it's a rural area. The next intersection had an ambulance depot. So they were there just a few minutes after Dave, the paramedic. And then this hospital, which is the only trauma hospital in this entire county.
Built 3 years before this happened, they built that trauma center.
It's 11 miles essentially straight down this road. It's just these insanely lucky, it's like, yeah, but it's like, yeah, it feels, it just feels like something was shining down on Jacy that day. Even though the horrible, horrible, horrible stuff happened. It's just, if Dave didn't hear that crash and rush to save her.
He went to the right intersection. There's a dozen intersections he could have gone to. He came exactly to this intersection.
It's just all these things. But what next slide did we leave in here? Okay, so you can kind of fast forward to getting into advocacy.
So eventually I learned that Pennsylvania, when this happened, had no laws at all about cell phones and driving. So the district attorney said it was all caused by a cell phone. And because that wasn't against the law, there were no criminal charges against either of those other drivers, even though they broke other laws. It did not make sense to me. In 2008, a few states had laws. You could see, like in New York, I'd go and visit Steve at that point. There was a strong law in New York, and people weren't on their phones. And I thought, all right, I'm going to get a law put in place in Pennsylvania. So went to the state capitol, really simply sharing this story, maybe trying to make some kind of sense out of all of it.
This photo is like 9 months after the crash.
Yeah.
Jacy in college was always this person who she'd see a problem and she would try to fix it. And I was in college a boy who sat on my butt playing the original Nintendo Wii. She's just this person who wanted to be involved, and clearly that came back after the crash, because here she was, like, I guess were you walking with a cane at that point? Or maybe even a crutch? It's like, it's so...
No, it was a cane. It's hanging on this pedestal.
Oh, that's a memory I don't have. That's fun. Standing was not that easy for her to do for 5 minutes.
Speaking? Yeah. So difficult. I wish we had a video of that.
She's just this, like, there's so much grit.
So at that point, the bill didn't go through. I got really frustrated with politics through all of this. People told me they would vote for it, and then I'd look at the voter roll and see that they hadn't, and it was really, really frustrating. But if nothing else, I guess this was a press conference, which made it doubly terrifying, having all these cameras pointed at me. But that meant it got my name out there. Like, this story already had gotten a lot of press because my parents were so beloved in our community, and so I was doing lots of these kind of awkward local interviews. It started to snowball. Somehow I got featured in People magazine, which is wild to think about. And that got press like all around the world, which got me invited to the United Nations, which is sort of my dream. Like, this is what I studied in college. And Ban Ki-moon is this celebrity to me, as he's calling for this end to the global epidemic of distracted driving, sort of like everywhere there are roads. This is the thing that's hurting and killing the people that we love. Again, that press just kept snowballing. I'm suddenly on an airplane flying out to Chicago to share this story with someone almost as cool as Ban Ki. A little more famous.
Certainly more famous.
Being on Oprah's TV show changed our lives. Also terrifying because it is Oprah, and she did a live TV show that I was on that year. Got this press, changed my view. We got to have the strong laws. It does make a difference. But, like, again, with those great laws in New York, I see the law broken every single day, everywhere we go, no matter what.
It's interesting you say that because, as she said, in 2008, you'd see the law made a difference. And it did. I think because we had dumber phones back then. I mean, texting felt dangerous on that kind of phone. And talking, people talked a bit. They would maybe use hands-free Bluetooth things if they could. It just seems like once smartphones came into the picture and so many other things were possible to do on a phone, the laws just stopped making as much of a difference as they used to.
Yeah, I think Oprah helped me to see the power of a story, and that, like, if I get people to care about this issue, to care about the other people on the road and not just like science or laws or stats, can make this issue real. So I kept sharing this story. I guess Oprah, what changed with Oprah?
Oprah changed our lives. She didn't like give us a car or pay off our student loans or anything like that. But within a month of Jacy being on Oprah, we were asked if we did high school presentations, and we had never thought about it. Like Jacy was really focused on getting these laws passed, but it was my old high school, which I think made it easier to say yes to.
Terrifying.
Yeah, public speaking is most people's biggest fear, and it was
schoolers?
certainly mine. And we're reading off note cards. We were just doing health classes. It wasn't even like in the auditorium, but we walked home. At that point, we had moved in with my parents because we kind of needed parents to take care of us at some point after the crash. And we walked back to my house just feeling really great. And so we threw ourselves into it. And we just like, at first it was asking, hey, does your mom know somebody at that school? And so on and so forth. And we got more training and we got more repetition. And eventually we started speaking for companies as well. And it was... I don't think we were that good at that at first.
No, that was really hard. You were 25 trying to tell truck drivers how to drive.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's just not knowing how to change a high school presentation to be more appropriate for adults or specifically truck drivers, and we just had to get practice. But that's 2010 when we first started speaking, and then we did like 7 presentations that year, and then come 2011 we started doing it full time, and you fast forward to now, and as you said in the bio, like we recently passed our 1,900th event, and at some point in there, I think the next slide would be, there's our happy ending. So a while ago now, I still see so much hair Steve used to have. I'm going for a haircut today, so maybe my hair is appropriately long. We did, this is unrelated, but last week we were speaking at a high school in South Dakota, and during the Q&A session, a kid raises his hand and just goes, "Hey, Steve, what happened to your luscious locks?" Which I appreciated the phrasing, but it was still kind of a hurtful question. We got married. So Jacy's parents had dated for 7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, we dated for 9 years before we got married. But, a beautiful day. And again, this day, just another example. It's like
it rained all week, and the forecast was awful.
Yeah, for this day was similarly awful. And we wake up, and it's just like this 72 degree. You could see how beautifully sunny it was. And again, it just felt like things were shining down from heaven. I'm not a particularly like spiritual person, to be honest, but like there are these moments that have happened, especially in the 18 years since the crash, that just, make me wonder. And is that the last slide we got up here? Yeah, it is. And that's the story.
Yeah.
The short of it, at least.
Yeah. I know you shortened it up, and it's that story is much longer than what you just did. But I just want to say that's a very powerful story. So much that you've gone through, but such an inspiration that you are out there trying to change these laws, trying to reach people. I think it's great that you're going to high schools, trying to get to the kids who are probably addicted to their phones. But Phil and I will tell you, in the fleet industry, we have grown adults just sitting there texting and driving. I was driving past somebody yesterday who was weaving in and out of traffic on the highway, and I passed her, and she's just texting on her phone. So it's across all ranges of types of people. So really appreciate what you're doing. I had something else to say there, but I can't remember. But it's nice to see you. Hopefully you can see us again. And I was going to say, this podcast is going to be a video and audio podcast for anybody listening on audio only. Please go to our YouTube channel, Fleet Safety Geeks, and actually watch this. This comes across fine as an audio podcast. Your story is amazing. But seeing those pictures is just so much more powerful. So hopefully people will go there and see that too. So,
yeah. And if I can, Jacy and Steve, I mean, just the difference that you're making, you've already saved lives. You're saving lives. And that's so important. I mean, it's especially getting to the kids. It should be, I remember I was a policeman in the early 80s, and impaired driving was not taboo. That was like a joke in every movie. And now if you're impaired driving, look what's happened with Tiger Woods, and everybody's saying like, this guy should be put in jail. He shouldn't be driving anymore. But back in the 80s, it wasn't that way. And that's where we need to get with cell phone use. It needs to be taboo. It should be shame on you, and not just holding the phone all cell phone use, as in the case with your horrible crash, JC, and I am so sorry that this happened to you. But this guy was hands free, and everybody thinks, oh, well, hands free is fine. It's not. And people will argue, well, if you're hands free, what's the difference between that and having a conversation with somebody in the car? Well, it takes far more focus to have that phone conversation than it does to have somebody in the car with you. And guess what? If there's somebody in the car you're having a conversation with, if something starts to happen, they'll say, hey, look out. It's another set of eyes. So no cell phone use. There should be no cell phone use, period. Put it down.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I wish the
of
damn things were
course,
still hanging on the walls.
yeah, that's what we're pitching in all of our presentations. So we took out that sciencey kind of stuff to hammer home the point you just. But it's a tough sell to certain audiences. Sometimes it just depends on how strong the law is in that state. States that have strong laws, people tend to think, oh yeah, phones must be pretty dangerous if the laws are this strict, even though there's no state that makes it illegal for an adult driver to have a hands-free phone conversation. Many make it illegal for under 18-year-olds to do that, and many companies prevent their drivers from even doing that. It's kind of like where it's in the culture, people get it more, and then other places, frankly, we get some pushback. We've done some Q&A sessions with truck drivers that have been a little tough, but it's also helped us kind of hone our message to meet them where they're at. And of course, we wish that everyone could be just crazy perfect on this, like we are, because we've been
impacted.
I don't
use my phone. My phone is out of sight, out of mind when I am driving, because I'm not going to put someone else's life at risk.
But then it's, a truck driver who may be on the road for 10 hours a day on open highway, and his company says he's allowed to have that call. Well, then we have to figure out how in our presentation to get to where they are, to say, okay, well, if you are not going to stop completely, as we want you to, all right, well, how about you limit it to daytime only? Traffic is really light. There's multiple lanes going your direction, and you can just hang out in the right lane.
Weather is
good. Access, something like that. Intersections, no phone. I don't know.
Right, yeah. Never in a downtown, never when there's lights. So even though we don't love it, that is safer, certainly, than when you're next to a bicyclist or a pedestrian or whoever it is at a left turn light, somewhere like that. So we've gotten to that point, even though Jacy fights it a bit. But I think it's important because, look, if they're allowed to do it, it's a tough sell to get them to go 100% cold turkey on this kind of stuff sometimes. But as you said, the danger is still there. And especially when you're driving like an 18-wheeler, however many tens of thousands of pounds.
But I think
the danger is just so high.
I think something else that's been positive is that here in New York, just as of this year, and a lot of other states now too, that kids are not allowed to use their phones in school, which scares me because then I'm scared they get out of school and they immediately feel like they need to do everything. But maybe more than that, I think it shows them that they can unplug for a little while and it's okay.
Right. If you could do it. If you could do it for 8 hours of a school day, you could probably do it for the 10 minutes that you're driving home after school. So I do think, that might be a positive thing. New York, where we live, just started that this school year, where all schools are phone free, and the teachers are saying it's like adjustment at first, and then they're all kind of used to it, and it's not so bad.
And then they kind of like it.
Can you apply that to the vehicle as well?
Yeah. Well, Phil and I both advocate.
Violation as well.
Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, you hear other people talk about, well, there are other distractions, absolutely, and they're not good either. But it's the volume of the violation that's the problem with cell phones. You can't drive down the road and not see somebody using their damn devices. I mean, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Put them down.
We advocate for the fleet industry. We don't want anybody on their phone, and it's an uphill battle, like you're saying, where if it's legal, it must be okay. And really appreciate you guys going out there, advocating, trying to change these laws. We had Steve Kiefer on. He lost his son, Mitchell. He's out there changing these laws. And there's successes, passing a hands-free law, but we still have the same problem. And that's what I'm trying to change at any company I work at, to put the phone away. Before these phones existed, we drove, we
Yeah.
worked, we got business done, and there's no reason we can't do it. Um, yeah, it's really frustrating, and the message that you are sharing is powerful and proof that it can still impact the way we drive, hands free or not. So appreciate that.
One of my favorite stats that we've seen in doing this, I think it was from the National Safety Council, that when companies put complete bans in place, a number of the employees actually proclaim that they are more productive. That instead of multitasking and trying to do multiple things at once and kind of failing at doing any of them good, that we can do one thing at a time and do a better job of each thing that we do and be more productive, more successful at our jobs.
And I think the other stat related to that was people who are prohibited from using their phones while driving for work. A huge majority of those people
83.
carry that home to
83%.
their personal lives too, and that's extremely important.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're driving, your little sedan or a big rig. Like, these things matter a lot. And then if you're setting that example at home for your kids, then your kids are less likely to, it kind of ripples in a positive way.
Yeah. We're already so busy with all the emails we get, all the different notifications we get on every device that we have. I've turned off all my notifications. I cannot stand having that constant notification. Remember the Blackberries? They called them the Crackberries, right? They vibrated. You all had to check. That's what started this addiction, and it's really something that I can't handle. I love just shutting my phone off and getting away from it and detoxing from that device. I can't wait till I'm like Phil and I'm retired. I'm going to go back to a dumb phone. I'm not going to have any kind of screen, and it's not going to be able to do anything. And if somebody calls, I'll probably still ignore the call.
Mm-hmm.
You already do that to me, Bob. So
I know. All the time. All right. We are at the point where people start dropping off. I doubt anybody's dropping off this podcast, though. Obviously, we want to make sure people are aware. You go to high schools, you go to companies. I'd love to get you in at my company. We've spoken about that. There hopefully is going to be an opportunity. But how do people reach you? How do people reach out to have you do some speaking for them?
Yeah, people can call, but it's always easier for us for email, just because if I'm talking to 12 people at a time, I like to have the ability to reference back to the conversation. So our website is just hangupanddrive.com, and our email address is at the bottom of that, and our phone number too, which is fine.
You can use.
Yeah, it texts. We used to not be able to text. I like the business text. Yeah. That's been nice.
Business text.
Nice. And people tend to find us through there, and we just built this life where we travel the country doing this thing that we love.
Not the life we imagined, but I think it's pretty incredible.
And I do think that we're pretty good at what we do. Mm-hmm. And part of it is the story speaks for itself. So we got better at telling the story, and the power is there, and getting across the science in a very easy to understand but relatable but powerful way, and built this thing that we feel really confident in. And I tell you, there's a lot of gratifying parts of the job and the presentation and the feedback we get. But when you make a professional truck driver cry in a room with other professional truck drivers, I don't want to make light of it. I think it makes us feel like we're getting across.
You're doing something right
on something that is so important. People don't always think of it as critically important, because nobody thinks that they're going to be the cause of a crash or even involved in a crash. You don't see these things coming. I did not care about traffic safety for the first 22 years of my life. Something came and kind of slapped me in the face, and now it's our biggest passion, because it's preventable. Everything you do behind the wheel, you're choosing to do that thing, and these choices they cause so much pain, but the idea that you can prevent the pain is all that really matters to us. And so we're just going to keep doing it until nobody wants to hear our story anymore. That's the truth of it.
Well, like Phil said, you're saving lives, and I hope you continue doing it. Actually, I hope you can stop doing it one day, because that would mean that we don't really have this problem anymore.
Right.
And I will also add, on a lighter note, you made this podcast really easy for Phil and myself, because Phil and I will just talk and we'll go way over, and we didn't have to do a lot of talking this time. So really appreciate that you did your presentation, told your story, and thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Steve, Jacy, thank you so much. You're doing such important and great work. Thank you. And I guess we'll be seeing you around. I hope to see you at another conference, and just
as a keynote.
Doing the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
So I just confess that I text and drive. If I get a text, I'll look at my phone. It's definitely texting.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Snapchat. I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Is that like making Snapchats or watching them?
Making them.
Texting is like my main form of communication.
Boredom, honestly.
And B, well, I guess no, it's really just A.
I've only never done it at stoplights. I've always been really good about it.
The passenger has a pretty important role driving now, where they're like, oh, red light, red light.
If someone that you like texts you, you can't just let it sit there without just knowing what they said.
Because what if something exciting's happening or something happened?
Like every time I do it, I think about, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
So I'd like to, want to introduce you to a friend of ours.
My name is Jacy.
Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dash. Justin, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I just really quickly want to have a chat, tell you what happened to me. When I was 21 years old, driving home from my college graduation ceremony, driver on his phone was so distracted, he turned left into the intersection at a red light. Another car, an 18-wheeler, swerved to miss him and hit my family's car. And the resulting collision actually killed both of my parents. I spent 2 months in the hospital fighting for my own life, and then 2 more months in a rehab hospital, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again, learning how to dress myself and how to feed myself. I live with a partially paralyzed body. I didn't have my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married.
Having sort of met Jacy, because you look at Jacy and sort of give those same reasons.
Usually I use my phone to change a song on. I try to use it as little as possible, but
I'm not gonna look at my phone ever again.
Honestly, if I have been sitting at a red light, I'll glance down to see if my mom's texting me, but the people's lives that are impacted from something that is so stupid.
I can assure you on my drive home right now, I'm not going to use my phone and drive, and I'm not gonna do it when I go to work tomorrow and the next day after that until, it becomes a habit, and that just doesn't happen at all.
I know this is hard, and I'm sorry, it's hard for me too, but this is real. You have the power to really actually make a difference and do something about it.